kunja bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja bihare. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhare. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhare. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachare. Yamuna Tiravanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja bihare. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhare. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhare. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachare. Yamuna Tiravanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja bihare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakachaja Satara Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace of Bhayacharanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityalila Pavishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakachaja Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi. All glory to the Sama devotees. All glory to the Sama devotees. All glory to the Sama devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. Continued reading from Srila Prabhupada's Limramrita. Additional pastimes. Now we're in Seattle. While Gargamuni was still desperately trying to find an apartment he could afford, the devotees received Prabhupada in a hotel room. We already read that one. Let's go. Around the room were nicely framed pictures. Let's see. To the left of the altar was an Indian print of Gopal with his arm around the calf, forming, you know that famous painter, right? The arm around the calf. Forming a border near the ceiling were several of Guru Das's captivating black and white close-ups of Srila Prabhupada on morning walks in San Francisco. On the left wall was a painting of Krishna driving Arjuna's chariot. To the right of the altar was Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasan. The room was small. The devotees had designed the Vyasasan 3 feet high and wedged into the corner so that the room could accommodate many people. The back of the seat was cushioned with deep blue velvet inset with large and decorative golden upholstery buttons. The seat itself was gold velvet with a gold bolster pillow. A small gold velvet canopy with a fringe hung above the Vyasasan. Srila Prabhupada arrived at the temple accompanied by his servant Kartikeya and his secretary Govindadasi. Coming up the steps onto the porch, they were greeted at the front door by the welcoming kirtan of the devotees in the small temple room. As Srila Prabhupada made his way from the door towards his Vyasasan, all the devotees in the room except for one bowed down. The exception, standing midway between the front door and the Vyasasan, was a newcomer, a girl named Joy Fulker, who had only met the devotees that very day. And as Srila Prabhupada passed by her, she also bowed down. Seattle is where my god sister Janava, wife of Nanda Kishore, joined. So this Joy Fulker could be Mother Janava. We'll see if we can confirm it. As Srila Prabhupada was taking his seat on the Vyasasan, while Kartikeya adjusted the microphone and Govindadasi adjusted the tape recorder, the devotees sent Joy forward to offer Prabhupada a garland of red roses and red carnations. Joy had made the garland, stringing the flowers into a symmetrical pattern. But when she placed it around Prabhupada's neck, the garland fell asymmetrically. Feeling undone, she turned to go sit down. "Thank you very much," Srila Prabhupada in a soft but deep, said Srila Prabhupada in a soft but deeply resounding voice. Maybe it's not her. Joy Fulker responds here in the Lilamrita. "So I sat down to listen to his lecture, but I could not understand his accent. I was struck with the impression that here was a very elderly person who had taken great difficulty to come and speak to us. I could understand there was nothing motivating in it for him. I felt very much that he didn't want to cheat me. I also had the conception that this person was inconceivably humble because of his quoting the scriptures, because of his references to his Guru Maharaj, and because of his general attitude and his soft-spoken voice. I could understand that he was not trying to impress anyone and that he was very humble and dependent on his Guru Maharaj. After the lecture, I raised my hand to ask a question. Answering 3 or 4 questions first, he finally took my question. I asked him, Sri Bhaktivedanta, how is it that this universal presence, which is humanly inconceivable, at least to me at this time, how can it have the form of Radha and Krishna? Devotees had preached to me prior to his arrival that the absolute truth, which I, from my reading in yoga philosophy, impersonally called universal presence, was actually Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his consort Radharani. Srila Prabhupada very distinctly answered, by his mercy, but then he spoke loudly, You cannot make the sun rise, and similarly, you cannot make God appear before you to answer your doubts. I was thunderstruck that he had chose this particular example, since only 4 months earlier, I had climbed a mountain by myself and sat there all night waiting for the dawn, when I would make the sun rise. But when dawn came, it was a cloudy day, and so, of course, I did not make the sun rise. The fact that out of all examples, Prabhupada chose that particular thing to answer me hit me like a thunderbolt. Then His Divine Grace softened His voice like a rose, and indicating his disciple with a wave of his arm, he said, "You just associate with these nice boys and girls here, chant this Hare Krishna mantra, eat Krishna prasadam, study my book scrutinizingly, and engage yourself in a little service. And then the Lord will reveal Himself to you from within your heart, in His own time, by His own sweet will, with all His name, fame, form, pastimes, paraphernalia, and entourage." Srila Prabhupada ki. So what's another definition of the spiritual master? It's called Sri Kalagya. He knows everything, past, present, and future. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 14th Chapter, Text 20. Tasmiṁs tuṣṭe kim aprāpyaṁ. Tasmiṁs tuṣṭe kim aprāpyaṁ. Jagatām īśvara-īśvare. Jagatām īśvara-īśvare. Lokāḥ sapālā etasmai. Lokāḥ sapālā etasmai. Haranti balim ādṛtāḥ. Haranti balim ādṛtāḥ. Please chant. Tasmiṁs tuṣṭe kim aprāpyaṁ. Give me the small black book in the cabinet that I read in the morning. It's in the right side. Thank you. Tuṣṭe kim aprāpyaṁ. Jagatām īśvare-īśvare. Lokāḥ sapālā etasmai. Haranti balim ādṛtāḥ. Tasmiṁs tuṣṭe kim aprāpyaṁ. jagatām īśvara-īśvare, lokāḥ sapālā etasmai, haranti balim ādṛtāḥ. Ladies, tasmiṁs tuṣṭe aprāpyaṁ, jagatām īśvara-īśvare, lokāḥ sapālā etasmai, haranti balim ādṛtāḥ. Anyone else? Tasmiṁs tuṣṭe aprāpyaṁ, jagatām īśvareśvare, lokāḥ sapālā etasmai, haranti balim ādṛtāḥ. Tasmin, when he, tuṣṭe, is satisfied, kim, what, aprāpyaṁ, impossible to achieve, jagatām, of the universe, īśvara-īśvare, the controller of the controllers, lokāḥ, the inhabitants of the planets, sapālā, with their presiding deities. He, for this reason, etasmai, unto him, haranti, offer, balim, paraphernalia for worship, ādṛtāḥ, with great pleasure. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped by the great demigods, controllers of universal affairs. When he is satisfied, nothing is impossible to achieve. For this reason, all the demigods, presiding deities of different planets, as well as the inhabitants of their planets, take great pleasure in offering all kinds of paraphernalia for his worship. Please repeat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped by the great demigods, controllers of universal affairs. When he is satisfied, nothing is impossible to achieve. For this reason, all the demigods, presiding deities of different planets, as well as the inhabitants of their planets, take great pleasure in offering all kinds of paraphernalia for his worship. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. All Vedic civilization is summarized in this way. All living entities, either on this planet or on other planets, have to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their respective duties. When he is satisfied, all necessities of life are automatically supplied. In the Vedas, it is also stated, Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman, Kata Upanishad 2.2.13. From the Vedas, we understand that he is supplying everyone's necessities, and we can actually see that the lower animals, the birds and the bees, have no business or profession, that they are not dying for want of food. They're all living in nature's way, and they all have the necessities of life provided, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Human society, however, has artificially created a type of civilization which makes one forgetful of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Modern society even enables one to forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead's grace and mercy. Consequently, modern civilized man is always unhappy and in need of things. People do not know that the ultimate goal of life is to approach Lord Vishnu and satisfy him. They have taken this materialistic way of life as everything and have become captivated by materialistic activities. Indeed, their leaders are always encouraging them to follow this path. and the general populace, being ignorant of the laws of God, are following their blind leaders down the path of unhappiness. In order to rectify this world situation, all people should be trained in Krishna consciousness and act in accordance with the varnashram system. The state should also see that the people are engaged in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the primary duty of the state. The Krishna conscious movement was started to convince the general populace to adopt the best process by which to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus solve all problems. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana-shlakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangulam Lankayate Gurum Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dhirataram Srinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Ridyantak Stoya Bhajani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Translation again. Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped by the great demigods, controllers of universal affairs. When he is satisfied, nothing is impossible to achieve. For this reason, all the demigods, presiding deities of different planets, as well as the inhabitants of their planets, take great pleasure in offering all kinds of paraphernalia for his worship. So this is basically the culmination, describing the duties of the king. All the varnas and ashrams were briefly touched upon. But the bottom line is that without satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all other activities are shrama eva hi kevalam. Atak pumbir dvija shrestha varnashrama vibhagasaha shrunushtata siddhamasya sangsiddhira haritoshanam. One has to haritoshanam, satisfaction of Hari. This is the ultimate goal. Everything else can be summed by this particular thing. It doesn't matter whether one is following his varna or ashram perfectly. If he is not satisfying Krishna in the execution of those duties, then those activities do not satisfy Krishna, and ultimately they're also condemned. Simply useless waste of time. So this requires some ability to analyze things in their proper perspective. People can become all caught up in trying to understand what is the varnashram that Srila Prabhupada was saying, that 50% of my work is unfinished. And someone thinks that this means that everything should be compartmentalized. Some people should go to the farm, some people should remain preaching, some people this, some people that. But Prabhupada gave his definition of varnashram as daivi varnashram. He wasn't speaking about the material social order. That would automatically come. It's not that anyone, it's already there, in one sense. Whether it's defined or not, if you look around, you can easily see the different classes: first class, second class, third class, fourth class. A person may be elevated to a high position, just like in the previous purports, Prabhupada is saying. Now the so-called leaders are all coming from fourth class. But they're holding high positions. Therefore, there's no complete execution that satisfies anyone, whether the praja, whether the subjects, or the people in general in charge. Always simply trying to make adjustments and extract as much as possible for their own personal sense gratification, for their own aggrandizement. It's almost a joke. And if you want to become rich, you get elected as a politician, because you get all this inside information. In India, you get all the bribes. Everything is there. It's just a position to make money. It's interesting that in India, at least they know that they have to shift these officers every 3 years. Because after 3 years, that person has made enough money in that position, which he has paid a good deal of money to get into in the first place. It's not that some person is randomly being appointed as a sales tax officer for a huge district. No, he has to buy his way into that position. And then in those 3 years, he's going to pay himself back handsomely. He's going to send his children to school in America. This we know, because when I was building the Samadhi, very nice sales tax officer, and he's able to do so many things. And he gave us, because it's necessary to meet these people on their own ground. Otherwise, things don't go well. So we were suffering for want of expediting marble coming from a different state, from Rajasthan, from Makrana, into UP. So much paperwork just for interstate commerce. So much tax, because marble is considered a luxury item. So we had to convince him that it's being used for a religious purpose. It should not be taxed. And so there's multiple. India is famous for what? Red tape, bureaucracy, pillar to post. Inconceivable. So when I first went to try to find out how can we expedite, I said, well, there's a form you have to fill out. What is that form? Baptiste. Form 32, sales tax form, Baptiste. And it has to be filled out in triplicate. Unheard of. Triplicate. And you have to do it with carbon paper. Anybody still know what carbon paper is? Because in India, everybody still uses carbon. And we didn't want to waste paper, so we got a dot matrix printer that could accept 3 copies with the carbon paper in between. And we wrote a program to fill it out. You have to write it out. It has to go from line to line with the right spacing in different fields in different places on the paper. This is 1985. You guys weren't even born yet, and we were writing these programs. And when I brought it to the sales tax officer, he was so impressed when he got this, because what happens is when you first go in, there's a room full of people. And I'm wondering, what is the process? Do you take a number? How do you get your... And the peon behind the desk, he motions to me to come forward, and he points to this pile on the desk, which is probably 12 inches high, of people, of forms of people waiting before me. 12 inches high. And then he looks down. He doesn't point. He looks down, and there's an open drawer on his side of the desk. And inside that open drawer, what is there? Piles of rupees. Piles of rupees. I'm looking, I'm thinking, I guess I'm supposed to put something in that drawer. Because he can't touch it. He won't touch it. So I took out whatever it was, 20, 30 rupees. In those days, that's a lot. I put it in there, and then he took my paper, and he didn't put it on the very top, but he put it close to the top. Okay. So then, at a certain point, the sales tax officer called me in, and he is sitting in this building is an old British building in Mathura, the regional sales tax office. And it's in a big court, and he's sitting in a big courtyard, in the center of the courtyard, in a chair, with a table next to him, with a peon, and he is sitting there. All he does, he paid to get, all he does is sign these papers. That's all he does. And doesn't even have to turn the pages. The peon turns the pages for him, and he signs. And the peon turns, and he signs this. And I'm thinking, okay. So he sees me, he sees that I'm American, asks a few questions, wants to know something, what's going on, and I explained to him. I said, well, we're trying to get marble in, and every time we have to get one truck, just one truck of marble, I have to come here, fill out this form, and present it to you, and I have to wait a month. And he looked and he said, oh, and everybody knows ISKCON. I said, okay, he said, next time, You don't have to wait. Give me as many forms as you want, and I'll sign them and give them back. So then we were able to submit 5 or 6 forms per month and get 5 or 6 trucks of marble instead of 1. So that's where we could complete the samadhi in much faster time than waiting 1 truck, 1 month, 1 truck, 1 month. It was, we found a way to work with the system. We didn't beat it, but we worked with it. And it was because of preaching to the sales tax officer. You have to meet these people. So things can be done. Prabhupada was in training us up to go there. We didn't have other people to go and do this work for us. We had this... Prabhupada wanted us to go into all these offices, government, and meet these individuals so that we could develop relationships with them, so that they could understand what we're doing is bona fide. Especially in this effort. Because, like I said, and the local governments also didn't like the fact that now these people were not paying sales tax on, crores of marble, lakhs and lakhs of marble. We're not paying sales tax. So there's some disturbance in the matrix in that regard. People get a little envious. How is it that these Hare Krishnas, they don't get that? Anyway, that's another story for another time. Because that envy builds up. And the next sales tax officer, after 3 years, this one we had cultivated so nicely. He would ask, I would go there, and he would say, "Come at lunchtime, we'll have lunch." And he was always telling me about his kids going to school in Michigan. He was and he was getting a promotion. So at the end of 3 years, he was getting a promotion. And then he told me, he says, I want you to know, because, I understand what you're doing. He says, but everybody who comes into this position is looking to make money. He was very frank. Everyone who comes into this position, he says, and they have put you at the top of the list to be audited. And the only reason that could be is because you've been getting all these, 32 forms over the course of a year, tax-free. So now, I didn't anticipate it, but I'm letting you know. And what did he say? He said, get your number 1 books and your number 2 books in order. Because in India, everybody has 2 sets of books. Number 1 set and number 2 set. Number 1 set is to show the government. Number 2 set is what the business is actually doing. And they know that. Very clear. Get your number 1 set and your number 2 set ready. I thanked him. I said, yes, sir. Okay, so you have to work with these bureaucrats. Because Prabhupada said right here, very clear, they're all in it simply to make a living. They're not there for the welfare of the general population. But the way to survive is that you have to have this personal relationship, which is why we tried to meet. That's why the previous mayor, he would come to the temple all the time, and we would go to see him, because we established a relationship. He wanted to know. He was very impressed by the temple and by the community, by the congregation. We'll have to see about what the future holds. But it's up to us to make an attempt to try to cultivate these relationships. And we have tried. We've already given the new mayor a Bhagavad Gita. Let's see. With Krishna's mercy, everything is possible. Everything is possible. And this is part of the purpose of austerity, is how to control the mind, the speech, not just the cold showers in the morning. That's just one aspect of austerity. Austerity is the mind, austerity of the body, austerity is the speech. So everything has to be there. And then one becomes a useful instrument in Krishna's service. And Prabhupada, we were reading this morning from Preaching is the Essence. Austerity in preaching work leads to perfection. Severe austerities in the practice of devotional service are of many varieties. The hard labor involved in preaching, preparing literature, preaching to atheistic men, and distributing literature door to door is of course an austerity. Tapo yuktena, tapo dibyang putraka. Such austerity is necessary. Yena satvang suddhigi. By such austerity in devotional service, one is purified of material existence. Kaman Shanar Juho. Indeed, such austerity leads one to the constitutional position of devotional service. In this way, one can give up material desires, and as soon as one is freed from material desires, he is free from the repetition of birth and death, old age and disease. Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, 4th Chapter, Text 26. So austerity, some people conjure up an image of somebody sitting in the Himalayas, cross-legged, long matted locks and beard, and just performing this bodily austerity. But the real austerity, Prabhupada is defining, is going door to door preaching. That's austerity. It is austerity of the body, it is austerity of the mind, it is austerity of speech, all three rolled into one. There's Yuga Vairagya, Yukta Vairagya. So we have something which is not found anywhere else, this condensed approach to self-realization. It doesn't require separate levels of performing gymnastics in the form of yoga or mona or any other types of bodily austerity. No, everything is so nicely integrated that they used to have that back in the day. We used to see that integral yoga society, but it wasn't. It was just a fancy name. And many people from that came to Krishna consciousness because you can't make any spiritual advancement. There's no spiritual advancement because there's no structure. They're not living in an ashram. They're not performing the austerities, including the regulative principles. They're not performing activities which are purificatory. So how can someone expect? Because they don't know what the components are, therefore they don't know what I should be getting. It's like buyer beware. That's that famous Latin dictum, caveat emptor, buyer beware. You have to know what you're buying, otherwise you'll be cheated. You know, if you're going to buy something valuable and you have no idea what is the cost, what is the content, then that person can sell you anything. They can sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. And many people have purchased. And so this is just the nature of the material world, that you have to know what are you looking for, what does it consist of, to some extent. Otherwise you have to be very, how can you say, perceptive. Like my god sister in Seattle. She was looking for something. She had an idea, universal presence, right? And because the qualification of the spiritual master is that he knows exactly what it is that the disciple needs in order to clear his doubt, to give that person Krishna consciousness. This is the specific qualification of the spiritual master. And so, of course, we all know that in Prabhupada's books, he's giving everyone exactly what they need. They simply have to read them. They don't need anybody to turn the pages for them. They can turn the pages themselves. Right? And every page you turn, for the first 9 cantos, you're getting closer and closer to self-realization. And if you listen to Prabhupada regularly, you're accelerating the process. Because you're hearing it from every possible angle. Here I'm reading what Prabhupada wanted, law books for 10,000 years. That's one angle. That's the facing forward public presentation. And then you're listening to Prabhupada's lectures, and he's giving in-depth analysis. Why do people pay us? It's good money to go and listen to someone where you could just buy the book. But then the author is giving special presentation. But he's already written the book. Why do I need to pay extra? Because you're getting some insight. Not everything goes into the pages of the book. And so this is the common in the material situation. So, of course, it's even more important. Because Prabhupada is not, he said, I'm not writing these purports. And when we would, with Prabhupada, we could see that this is just flowing out of Srila Prabhupada. You know, they have a term for it, this continuous flow of thought. Right? It's a sign of genius. Did anyone know there was one particular aspect of Napoleon? Who knows who Napoleon is? Everybody knows who Napoleon is? You studied? Okay. Napoleon had this ability. He could nod off, doze off, fall asleep for an hour, 2 hours, just wake up exactly where he left off in his train of thought. Exactly. Because there's little, his subconscious and conscious were in synchrony. So this is the pure devotees have that. Their subconscious is not like us. We go into a different subtle environment. But the pure devotee has no such difference like that. And so Prabhupada is communicating. Krishna from within his heart is dictating. So we have to appreciate these purports for what they are, not just ordinary explanations of a particular verse or stanza. And if we have that appreciation, then our hearts become that much more receptive. Because it ultimately is the heart. This is where your realization, sarvasya chaham riddhi sanivishto. So Prabhupada is giving us this insight. Nectar devotion somewhere. There's one who is poor in devotion, is always seeking material sense gratification, sense satisfaction, some material achievement. And so this is a symptom. If you see someone who is constantly on the lookout how to increase, what's that verse? Īśvara-āḥam bhogi siddhaham balavan sukhi. A person, he may even be dressed, he may even be following the path of spiritual life in this society or another society. But you see, they're just looking for some puja pratishtha. That's their sole concentration, looking for profit, distinction, and adoration. So if someone is there, you see, and you have to know that this person is His devotional accumulation is insufficient at that time to satisfy him. Right? Because that's anyabhilasata sunyam jnana karmadhyanavartam. That is the definition of bhakti. And so if someone is looking here and there for something, then you know that somehow or other this taste has not taken place. So it has to get rasavajam rasopyasya. Param drisvanavartate. He hasn't experienced that higher taste. Rasavajam rasopyasya param drisvanavartate. And so one should always be praying for that. You know, like Kadambakana Maharaj was saying, embrace the tree and pray how to conquer Krishna. He was praying how to conquer Krishna. And how can Krishna be conquered? Only by pure devotion. Cannot be conquered. But what does that mean? It's not that Krishna is going to award you the devotion by which you can conquer him. You have to earn it. And how do you earn it? Sarvadhamma pratyajamamekam sharanbhaja aham tvam sarvam papyabhyo. You have to give up everything, not just all varieties of religion. All varieties of religion in the material world, all religion is so-called material. And now religion means how to satisfy the body and the senses and the mind. That is essentially religion. People are substituting all these things for God, whether it's politics, whether it's a specific cause. So many causes. Because people don't know what the aim of life is, they adopt some cause religiously. Whether it's communism, whether it's socialism, atheism, nihilism. So many isms, Prabhupada used to say. And it has become the religion of these individuals. Because they don't know what is real religion. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Very unfortunate. So our duty is to give them the definition of real religion. And so this, of course, the Bhagavad Gita ends on that point. Sarvadhamma, we have to surrender to Krishna. And then Krishna himself comes as the Yuga avatar to show us how to surrender. This is a very simple process. It's chanting, dancing, feasting. Nothing complicated. One of our God brothers wrote a book, Kitchen Religion. That's the title of the book, Kitchen Religion. Did you read that book yet, Michael? Kitchen, Michael. So we have so many ways, we have so many weapons in the arsenal of preaching. And we have the Sunday Love Feast today. We open the doors. People come in. They get a chance to experience. What was the first thing I remember? Walking into the temple on Henry Street, the smell of incense offered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My very first impression. So the senses are active. And they're not just active, they're feeding you spiritual information if you're receptive. You have to have an open heart and an open mind. Everything has to be there. And then, of course, you walk into the temple, you hear the sounds of the kirtan. And then you smell the prasadam. Everything is there, so wonderfully arranged. And the devotees are there, very bright-faced, eager to greet the guests, and of course to sell them a book. And there was a book table as soon as you came into the temple. Very narrow hallway, just past the temple room. Very narrow hallway, but there it was, squeezed in, a book table. So you couldn't go anyplace else. You know, well, actually, you could go upstairs. But the upstairs was closed until It was after the kirtan. And we used to serve the feast in what was called the gallery, the second floor, where we would take our hot milk and popcorn at night. That was where we would serve the guests. There was also a stage where we would hold plays. And in that gallery were all the BBT paintings that were being painted just a few blocks away on Tiffany Place. All the beautiful paintings. And when we were reading, because we had gotten Bhagavad Gita, and you go there in the gallery and you see all the paintings. Here's all the paintings that are in the pages of the Bhagavad Gita and in all the other books. Such a wonderful atmosphere. So yesterday the nice devotees were painting so that we could put the pictures back. So after breakfast, as we mentioned this morning, for those who are in Mangalartik, after breakfast everyone will engage in at least 1 hour of service someplace in the temple. And one of the places is hang the pictures back on the wall, on the lower level, because they've done the second coat on the primer. It's not finished yet. The painting scheme is not complete. But for now, we can put the paintings back because they're protected now, because they did the upper level of the second corbelled, gabled tier. So this is old temple meant for preaching. So many things we're hearing the Bhagavatam. We're having the darshan of their lordships. Krishna is giving us everything we need to be enthusiastic. Utsaha nishtayat daryat tat tat karma pravartanat. Everything we need in order to execute the mission. There's nothing else. This is the armory and the arsenal of devotional life. Everything is here. We're not without the facility to preach. No one could say, "Bro, I don't have what I need to preach." I mean, you didn't chant your japa, you didn't see the deities, you didn't take prasadam, you didn't. Everyone has everything they need. But you have to add what? Sincerity, determination, dedication. Those things have to be added by your individual contribution. So Krishna gives you everything you need, and then you have to act. This is the key. You have to act. It was like we didn't know how to get around this sales tax thing initially when it was presented to us. But Krishna, it was logical. We have to find out. Otherwise, we're at the mercy of the bureaucracy. We had to find out. And when we did, Krishna immediately reciprocated and said, yes. Now it's going to go quickly. For years before that, nobody was trying to go and take care of this small little problem. They're just waiting. Anyway, there's reasons. If you want to get something done, if you want to show Krishna, his time, what do we have? That famous in India, what do they say? Just now coming. Just now coming. Because time is so fluid in India. You know, 12, 12:31, it's all the same. So we have to learn to work with that system. We have to use Krishna's time. So no, we don't want to wait a month for another truck. We want 5 trucks in 1 month. As a matter of fact, we like them simultaneously. I used to drive. Everyone knows what a chungi is? What's a chungi? In India, when you enter every district, like Mathura, has a delineation for collecting revenue. So the chungi is when you enter into the precinct of Vrindavan, they literally have this bar that comes down. When they see a car come in, they stop it and they ask, they want to see what you have in your car. You're bringing something from Delhi, they want to tax it. You're bringing something from any place, they want to tax it. We would bring these huge trucks filled with marble, And their smiles would be from face to face. Because they know they're going to get some tax. But the tax we pay there, because I have the sales tax form, it's tax-free from Rajasthan. I don't have to pay the sales tax. But they still want something. We have to satisfy them. So you have to give us something. Big truck like this, you can't just expect us. So we will give them a few rupees, a couple hundred rupees. And they were happy. You know, that's it. You have to do it, something like that. And then they would, like this. That's how they do it, like this. It was a wonderful experience. Krishna giving us opportunity how to learn to preach, how to get things done for Krishna. Can you imagine what the devotees had to go through to build the temple in Bombay? We know the story. How difficult it was. How many hurdles they had to, cross. So we're meant to experience these things in order to expect Krishna's mercy. So we have such a situation here in New York like this, rising like a phoenix from the ashes. It's not easy. It's meant to encourage us how to utilize all of our intelligence to get this back to where it should be. There was a severe gap in the preaching for many years in New York. But Krishna is giving all of you an opportunity to participate in this renaissance. And so in that sense, it will make the next generation very strong if you apply yourselves. Don't just take it for granted and put something on autopilot, cruise control. You have to endeavor. Utsahan ischaya daryat. You have to endeavor. And so this is something that, like I said, we can all participate, especially right after breakfast. So I'm going to stop now. It's 9 o'clock. No one should be eating past 10 o'clock. It's not just to continue conversations. You take prasadam and you get to work. You get to devotional service. There's lots of things to be done. Like I said, one thing is getting the paintings hung in the temple room. And I see lots of hooks in the front desk. So I know Jai Radhe must have stocked up on picture hooks. Whole box of picture hooks. Did you see that? Whole box of picture hooks. And then there's other things. We want to make sure that everything is clean and everything is touched up if necessary. Benches should be clean. The guests are coming to sit on the bench. When was the last time these benches were wiped down? Anybody know? I have to look around. We had one devotee on Henry Street, and he had OCD. Anybody know what OCD is? Obsessive compulsive disorder. Prabhupada's wife also had OCD. You don't know the story? It's in Lilamrita. Prabhupada came home one day. His wife was always cleaning. Prabhupada said she had cleaning disease. This is what he called it. Cleaning disease. So in India, they don't have like nice lamp sockets, chandeliers, and these hanging thing. They have a cable with a socket on the end of it. That's it. They don't even have a shade. There's just a wire with a socket. You plug the bulb in. So Prabhupada's wife had taken the bulb out of the socket. And you know how they clean in India? They like to have a bucket, a balti. And you take the balti and you splash the water around and then you wipe it up. So she was splashing the water into the lamp socket. 220 volts. And Prabhupada said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Don't ever do that again. I'll kill you." Because if she did it, she's going to kill herself. So Prabhupada had to stress. He says, I'll kill you. So we want OCD for cleaning Prabhupada's temple, but we want it to be in a regulated fashion. So this devotee in Henry Street, he would wipe every single doorknob, the railing on every staircase, the banisters, everything. I mean, everything we did in those days was by hand. There was no mops, bucket and cloth. But he was fanatic. There's lots of doors in the building, in the temple. Every single doorknob, every single, any surface that someone could touch, he would clean it. And I was impressed. I thought, boy, this guy's, he's advanced. But yeah, I was just a bhakta. But the point is, when I got an opportunity to clean Prabhupada's room, which is another room, once the paintings are out of there today, that new room needs to be cleaned. Thoroughly dusted, vacuumed, floors wiped. This is Prabhupada's room. I used to clean Prabhupada's room. And from that devotee, I wanted to make sure that every single thing in Prabhupada's room was clean. We used to pick up everything on the desk and clean it and put it back exactly where it was. So it was a very great opportunity, a lesson in how to be conscientious. So all these things are meant to increase our love and devotion. Because love and devotion doesn't come simply by staring at a picture and just conjuring up some thoughts of whatever and trying to use that as an exchange of love by, some sentimental way. No, you have to show. Prabhupada said, act in such a way that Krishna sees you. That's love. That's love. I don't just think that, because I love you, everything. No, I have to show it. And we show it by our determination to execute the mission and every aspect of it. Every aspect. And the first thing is, cleanliness is next to godliness. As Prabhupada was teacher. If he said it once, he said it 1,000 times. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So, let's go take Krishna Prasadam. Let's meditate on the areas that we're going to attack and clean. And it could be your immediate area, it could be this place, that place, but it should be, my humble suggestion, an area that the public sees. Because other areas we could always clean anytime. But the areas that the public sees, that needs to be done today, because today is public day. Republic Day, but public day. Okay, so we won't do questions. Questions you can ask me anytime. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.